The summer of 1884 came to the town of Red Rock like a fever, clinging heavy to the skin and wrapping the air in dust, sweat, and restless dreams. The railroad brought more strangers than the town was used to, some chasing opportunity, some running from sins, and some carrying both in equal measure. That same season, two wanderers crossed paths in a place where neither had intended to stay long. A boarding house with peeling shutters, and a proprietor too kind-hearted to run the place like the business it should have been. Jonas Mercer swung down from his saddle just as the Kansas sun bled itself into the horizon, smearing the sky in bruised reds and golds. 39 years old and feeling older than that, Jonas had the lean, tired look of a man who had lived through too many battles, both with bullets and with his own mistakes. He'd ridden in from Dodge City, carrying nothing but a half-empty saddlebag, his revolver, and $46 stitched into the lining of his vest. His fiancée, Lucinda Hale, had taken everything else from him 3 years earlier. His savings, his cattle, his reputation, before vanishing with a traveling salesman whose smile came cheap but cut deep. That betrayal festered like an unhealed wound, and every mile he rode carried its echo. At that same dusky hour, a coach rattled to a stop before the boarding house. From it stepped a young woman in a wrinkled traveling dress, the kind stitched to suggest refinement, but already worn down by miles of prairie grit. Eliza Carrigan, 24 years old, had sharp green eyes that could wither pride and a chin set firm as a fence post driven deep into rocky soil. She'd left behind St. Louis and the life her father had mapped out for her. A marriage contract thinly veiled as an arrangement, with Horace Penfield, a 70-year-old banker whose wealth stank of cigars and decay. Eliza clutched her reticule tighter around the letter that promised her the schoolteacher's post in Red Rock. $50 a month wasn't riches, but it was freedom, and freedom tasted sweeter than any silver coin. They met not with conversation but with footsteps. Jonas's spurs struck the porch boards with a metallic rhythm as Eliza's heeled boots clicked alongside, the two of them reaching the boarding house door at the exact same time. Neither spoke, but both felt it, a tension sparking between them, not yet recognition, not yet attraction, but awareness. Mrs. Doyle, the matronly keeper of the house, opened the door with flour still dusting her apron. Her eyes widened as she took in the two newcomers. "Well, mercy," she muttered, her smile faltering into apology. "Seems I've got myself in a pickle. Only one room left upstairs, and two of you in need of a place to lay your heads." Jonas's jaw tightened, pride stinging. "Ma'am, I sent word ahead, paid my deposit." Eliza stepped forward, chin lifted, the school board's letter in hand. "And I was promised accommodations weeks ago. The town arranged it. Surely you wouldn't think to put a lady out." Mrs. Doyle's cheeks pinked as she fumbled with her ledger. Finally, she sighed. "Room 7's all I've got. Decent mattress, a washstand, but just the one bed. You'll either share it, or one of you can bunk with the horses in the barn." Eliza gasped, her indignation immediate. "Share? Absolutely not. I am a respectable woman, and I will not compromise myself." Jonas's pride flared hot. "And I'm not some drifter to be tossed in a hayloft while a city girl claims the last bed." The standoff stretched taut as barbed wire. Neither would yield. At last Eliza hissed, "Fine, a curtain between us, and you keep to your side." "Agreed," Jonas replied curtly, though the words tasted bitter. Mrs. Doyle wasted no time hustling them upstairs, promising an extra blanket before leaving them in the cramped space. The silence that followed was thicker than any prairie night. The first evening nearly came to blows. Jonas tossed his saddlebag onto the mattress, claiming it by right. Eliza promptly shoved it onto the floor and spread her things over the quilt. "I was here first," she declared. "Like hell you were," Jonas growled. In the end, they drew a line down the middle with a rolled blanket and turned their backs, Jonas sleeping in his boots, Eliza clutching her wrapper to her throat. Neither found rest. He snored like a sawmill. She kicked like a mule. Mornings became skirmishes. Jonas left his gun belt draped over the one chair. Eliza moved it to a nail, arranging her combs in neat rows. He scattered clothes without care. She folded each garment with exacting precision. Their voices clashed daily, the arguments sharp, but never quite cruel. And yet, beneath the constant sparring, something unexpected stirred. Jonas found himself noticing how the sunlight caught fire in her hair as she brushed it by the window. Eliza, despite herself, flushed when his shirt rode up to reveal the hard planes of muscle honed by ranch work. Their words softened, laced more with teasing than venom. One thunderstorm changed everything. Lightning split the sky, rattling the house. Eliza startled awake, trembling, breath quick. Jonas, in the dark, reached across the blanket line and found her hand, cold, delicate, desperate for steadiness. "It's just noise," he murmured. "Can't touch you in here." They said no more, but when morning came, the air between them had shifted. Days rolled into weeks. Eliza taught at the schoolhouse, her laughter carrying out the windows when children amused her. Jonas found odd work helping ranchers mend fences and move cattle, his hands calloused but steady. Evenings belonged to the two of them, their quarrels turning into shared jokes, their silences into something almost companionable. At a wedding in town, a simple ceremony for Mrs. Doyle's niece, their fragile truce cracked open. When the bride tossed her bouquet, both Jonas and Eliza leapt. Their fingers closed around the stems at the same instant, neither willing to release. The crowd roared with laughter as they tugged back and forth until both tumbled into the grass, petals scattering over them. They lay there, laughing together for the first time. Not as enemies, not as reluctant roommates, but as man and woman caught in something bigger than pride. That night, their routine shifted. Jonas began to tell her stories of the trail, of cattle drives through blizzards, of stampedes in the dark, of friends buried on the prairie. Eliza, in turn, shared her writings from the little leather journal she carried, snippets of poetry, half-finished stories. "The prairie wind carries secrets," she read once, her voice soft. "Stories of those who passed this way before, their hopes scattered like seeds on the grass." Jonas listened as though the words were scripture. "You've got more soul in your scribbles than most preachers I ever heard." As nights stretched long, they leaned closer across the blanket line. Jonas spoke at last of Lucinda's betrayal, the way she had mortgaged his land behind his back, sold his stock, drained his accounts until he was left with nothing but dust and shame. Eliza confessed her father's bargain, the weight of being bartered like cattle to pay off debts. In those confessions, they recognized one another, two broken souls cut from different cloths but stitched with the same thread of defiance. Desire followed, slow at first, cautious. A brush of fingers while passing plates, a glance that lingered too long, a smile that reached the eyes. Until one night, Eliza wrote a single word in her journal and showed him. "Hound." Jonas stared at it, then at her. "That what I am to you?" Her throat worked. "It's what I didn't expect to find here." Their first kiss was hesitant, almost reverent, but it broke a dam. Weeks of simmering tension erupted into passion neither could deny. That narrow bed which had once been battlefield became sanctuary, their whispered laughter mixing with sighs, their bodies learning each other's language. For a few golden weeks, they lived in a world of their own making. Jonas worked, Eliza taught, and at night they dreamed together, of a ranch in Montana, of children playing in a yard, of building a life not out of convenience but choice. Then Horace Penfield arrived. His silver hair gleamed as he stepped off the train, his suit pressed and his eyes fixed on Eliza like a predator spotting prey. He approached her on the street with the oily smile of entitlement. "My dear," he said smoothly, "your father sent me to collect you. We've a wedding to arrange." Eliza froze, townsfolk watching. "I'm not marrying you," she said, her voice trembling but steady. His smile curdled. "Your father owes me a considerable sum. Our marriage will erase it. Do you want to see him ruined?" Fear clawed at her, but when Jonas appeared in the doorway of the schoolhouse, hat in hand and eyes hard, she felt the ground steady beneath her. He told Penfield of the cattle he'd left in Denver, how they'd multiplied under the care of a trusted friend. By morning, a telegraph would confirm enough funds to pay every cent of her father's debt, with interest. Penfield's face turned purple with fury, but Jonas stood firm. "You won't bully her. Not here, not ever again." That night, Eliza wept in Jonas's arms. "You gave up your future for me." "No," he whispered against her hair. "I built a future for us." Days later, with Penfield gone and the debt repaid, Jonas knelt in the boarding house parlor, a simple gold band in hand. "Eliza Carrigan, will you marry me?" Her laughter broke into tears. "I thought you'd never ask." The town turned out for their wedding, the same townsfolk who had laughed at their bouquet battle, now cheering as rice and wildflowers rained down. They honeymooned in the very room where their war had begun, and 5 years later, Eliza stood at the doorway of their modest ranch house, watching Jonas teach their son Daniel to ride. The boy's green eyes shone with joy, and Eliza's hand rested on her growing belly. Their second child on the way. They still argued sometimes, over chores, over the weather, over whose turn it was to stoke the fire, but their quarrels always ended in laughter, sealed with kisses that reminded them of what they had fought for. That night, as they rocked together on the porch swing, Eliza leaned into Jonas's shoulder. "Do you remember what you said to me? About imagining me 1,000 ways?" He kissed her temple. "I remember, and in every one you carried my child, but I never imagined how happy we'd be." Under the endless prairie stars, they kissed again, their story no longer one of dust and desperation, but of stubborn hearts who found home where they least expected it. And if you've been swept along with them this far, don't click away. Stay a little longer, because their story reminds us all. Love often comes disguised as conflict, and sometimes the fight worth having leads to the life worth living. So keep listening, keep reading, keep watching, because stories like Jonas and Eliza's don't just belong to the past. They belong to anyone who believes in second chances, in courage, in the kind of love that rewrites a future. And if you've ever felt broken, betrayed, or left with nothing but dust and shame, remember this. Somewhere out there, your story might just be beginning.